Hi everyone, and welcome to the Allplane podcast, where we talk with the movers and shakers that are redefining the future of commercial aviation. As usual, before we start, let me remind you once more that all previous episodes of this podcast, as well as many other aviation stories, are available on the Allplane website. That's Allplane.tv, Allplane.tv. Today, here on the podcast, we welcome Gregory Davis, President and CEO of one of the companies that have somehow become an icon of the new generation of electric aviation startups. Founded in Israel in 2015 and currently operating mostly in Washington state, Eviation is developing what we could call an electric native aircraft, the Alice. If you follow aviation news regularly, you might have already come across the Alice at some point. The Alice is certainly eye-catching. It has a super sleek design with very elegant lines and a futuristic look. This is in no small measure because it has been designed from scratch to be battery electric and to integrate a whole set of new technologies. The Alice flew for the very first time in September 2022, after having gone through a rather significant redesign the previous year, and it has already secured around 300 orders from operators in the commuter, cargo, and private aviation markets. So far so good, but how close is the Eviation Alice to certification? And when can we expect its next flights to take place? How much will it cost? Well, Greg Davis is going to answer all these questions and some more in today's episode of the podcast. So tune in to learn it all about the new and very exciting Eviation Alice. Hello, Gregory. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks, Mikhail. How are you?
Where are you joining us from, if I may ask?
I'm coming in from the west coast of the United States in Washington state, where Eviation is headquartered.
A very aeronautical state, if I might say.
We have very good company. And one of the reasons why we're located here, of course, is because of the excellent infrastructure in terms of people and suppliers that we have in the west coast of the U.S. Here in Washington.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Well, just let me say a few words to introduce you to the audience. You are the president and CEO of one of the electric aviation companies that have been making the headlines in the last few months, and that's Eviation. And you have a really sleek new airplane that flew for the first time last September. That was a really exciting moment because you not only flew the aircraft, but also a whole range of systems that are very important in this new era of electric aviation that we are starting. But first of all, let me ask you, like all guests, to introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about your background and how you basically ended up leading Eviation.
Well, thank you very much. Yes, thanks for that great intro. And so I'm Gregory Davis. I am the president and CEO of Eviation. I joined the company about 2 years ago as president with an eye of helping us evolve from being really a tech startup in the aviation sector into being a full aircraft manufacturer. My background, I started off very early with airplanes. I remember actually on my third birthday getting a model kit for it was an English Electric Lightning. And I think I just sort of got hooked. My grandfather was actually an aeronautical engineer. And I grew up around aircraft. It became part of my life early on. You know, it's funny. I actually got my glider pilot's license when I was 16 years old, and when I was 17, which is the 11th grade, I got my private pilot's license through the Air Cadet program in Canada. And I famously, I didn't have a driver's license, but my friends did. And so several afternoons during the final year of high school, we would just simply talk to our teachers and say, we're going to miss school this afternoon because we're going flying. Never really posed a problem. And then I actually have a bachelor's and master's degree in aerospace engineering. I've studied computational aerodynamics, I have a commercial pilot's license as well. And then I've worked in all aspects of aerospace. I've design, manufacturing, certification, and of course now running Eviation as our CEO, making this company move towards the industrialization and certification and ultimately the delivery of the Eviation Alice.
Yeah, certainly all this experience comes in very handy in a project like Eviation, because you are basically building a new aircraft concept from scratch with all the technology in there. What can you tell me about Eviation, the project you are leading? Because I remember just a few years ago, I have to check, but I think it must have been 2017 or even earlier. I wrote a piece for CNN about the new generation of light aircraft. And at the time, no one was talking about electric aircraft. I even didn't approach this topic with the idea of electric aviation or sustainability. It was just about light aircraft and interesting new concepts in light aircraft. And I came across Eviation at the time, which I think was a bit, the design was a bit different, but still, it was the company already existed. And yeah, since then it's become basically one of the stars of this new crop of electric aircraft that are hopefully coming soon to the market. What can you tell us about the history of this project and the evolution? Because I think there have been also some internal changes, some changes in management as well, and some design changes in the last, I don't know how long it's been going for, 6-7 years, something like that.
We started in 2015 in Israel.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where we were founded, and that's where the concept evolved to have an electric airplane, electric passenger airplane in particular. And so we've evolved the aircraft. You're right, we went through a different design. The one that I saw at Paris Air Show in 2019 had 3 motors. One of the exciting things that's happened, since 2015 and today is that the technology for the electric motors or electric engines has evolved quite significantly. And so we're able to get more power out of an electric engine today than we did, in 2019, which means that we only need 2 engines. And that's allowed us to evolve the design of the aircraft into a more conventional form. I think, as you've said, of course, it's still a very new, distinct looking aircraft.
Yeah.
And
I love the design, actually. I really, when you see it, you kind of sticks to your mind because it's really like something completely different from any other aircraft that you might see.
it's because it's the first aircraft in the world that's truly designed around the batteries.
Mm-hmm.
So the batteries, of course, they're a large portion of the aircraft's weight. So you need to locate them in and around the center of gravity of the aircraft to manage your loads and your performance. And that actually drives the shape of Eviation's fuselage, right? Actually, where we've located the batteries is key to why it has that unique form. We need to have a very high lift over drag ratio for an electric plane because you are carrying around that weight of those batteries. And that's what informs the design of the wings and also just the aerodynamic considerations in the fuselage. So you start to evolve this shape, this form of an aircraft based around, again, the electric technology that's gone into it. And then after that, we really care about how our product looks and presents to the marketplace. It's very exciting. It's very, very exciting to think that we're going to be able to fly, point to point regionally without harming the environment, and in an aircraft that's also very, very quiet and comfortable. And
yeah, actually, if I may interrupt you here 1 second, because we are talking about all this, and I'm assuming that most people that are listening to us might already be familiar with the Eviation Alice, but just to put things in context, can you tell us in a few words the main features of this aircraft? I think it's a 9-seater, all electric.
Yes. So Alice is being designed to be a 9-seater commuter aircraft. We're actually doing 3 versions of the aircraft: the 9-seater commuter, a cargo version, and also a 6-passenger executive version of the aircraft. It's a commuter category airplane, so less than 19,000 pounds. And we can talk a bit about why 9 seats is actually a really great number of seats for an airplane. It goes down to the operating economics of the aircraft. Because with nine passengers, you can actually fly with a single pilot under existing regulations. And maybe we can talk a bit more about why this design converges to the sweet spot of electric aviation as well.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, yeah, sorry, I interrupted you when you were telling us about why it has this very, very sleek, very elegant shape, because if it's designed from scratch to be an electric airplane and designed around the batteries. So yeah, please go on, because that was very, very interesting.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so back to that. I mean, again, being designed around the batteries, so it's led to the key placement of the features of the aircraft, and then of course integrating all of the systems into the aircraft. Part of the design evolution was that we've gone with a fly-by-wire system for our flight controls. That's for a couple of reasons. One of them is actually quite a bit lighter than a hydraulic control system. Also, if you think about it, the fly-by-wire is electric, and of course our power source, our energy source is electric, so it's nice not to have to convert from one power source or one energy source to the other. It's more efficient, and also, it's going to have some significant maintenance, positive implications on the maintenance of the aircraft. A single actuator, a single part number, can be used to control any one of our control surfaces, so our ailerons, our rudder, and our elevator. So even things like maintaining the aircraft in service are going to be that much easier because you only need to stock one part number of actuator. It's a smart system. When you plug the actuator into the aircraft, the airplane tells it where it is. So it knows if it's an aileron or a rudder or an elevator. So things like the technology that we're evolving into the airplane are going to have a positive effect on its operations and maintenance as well.
And you mentioned there is, let's say, the standard version, there's a cargo version and a VIP version. Are all of these versions, I guess it's the same airframe?
Yes, so it's all three versions of the aircraft. It's one type, so it's a single type of aircraft, but with three different interior configurations.
Okay. And basically right now, you've got quite a few orders for this aircraft.
So we actually have over 300 aircraft on order right now. And I would say about 80% of the orders that we foresee are for the commuter version of the aircraft. And it speaks to the regional air mobility market, and because it ties in with the sweet spot about why what we're doing is the right thing to do with an electric airplane. And then about 15% of the marketplace is eat cargo, and then the rest is going to be the VIP conversion or VIP version of the aircraft.
And where are you now in the development process?
So we've finished our technology demonstration phase. So we're going through and taking the aircraft through the certification process to get it into production. We're going to enter into service in 2027. So that's when we'll also see our type certificate. And leading up to that is going to be flight testing and, of course, assembling the aircraft in its final design.
Have you been flying it more often after that first flight in September?
When we did our first flight, the aircraft was very heavily instrumented, right? So there had thousands of different parameters being monitored, and we actually generated terabytes of data. And what we've done since first flight is we've analyzed that data against our predictions, against what our models said the aircraft was going to do. And thus far, we've got a really good correlation between our predictions and the way the aircraft flew. And so we'll fly the aircraft again when we have a need to get more information that's going to influence the design of the production aircraft.
Because you're doing this testing in Washington State, but in inland, yeah, in interior.
That's right. So about 250 kilometers east of Arlington, Washington, our headquarters, there's a flight test facility at Moses Lake, Washington. It was, I think, originally a B-52 base, but since then it was actually built out to be an alternative landing site for the space shuttle, and it's got just a lot of runway. So it's used by several manufacturers for flight testing.
Interesting. So 2027 should be certified, and when that happens, do you have an industrial plan in place? What is going to be produced? How many of those can you produce? Because you've got quite a few orders. So I guess if you're going to serve them fast, you will need quite a big factory or a big assembly line to make all those planes.
So our approach to industrializing and bringing the aircraft to market is to actually partner or work with strategic supply chain. So we're looking at people who are best at what they do, whether it's wiring or structures, or other subsystem development. And so that's going to be our approach. We're not planning on expanding our business to be, a multi-thousand person business. We're looking at focusing and keeping a core team with all of the knowledge and capabilities for the design of the aircraft. We're going to assemble it and deliver it to customers. So that'll be Eviation, who does that final putting the aircraft together and making sure it's finished to our standards and then delivered to our standards to our customers. So that'll be our part of it. But other than that, we're looking at the global supply chain. We're going to find people who are best at what they do and invite them to be on the program with us.
Here on this podcast, we had the CEO of Magnix, Mixed Electric Motors. My understanding is that there used to be quite a close relationship between the two companies. Is still the case? So are you going to use Magnix motors?
With the prototype aircraft actually flew with two Magnix motors, with the Magni 650s. And we're working closely with Magnix for the development of the propulsion system for our airplane. That's the motor that we have on the aircraft is the Magnix motor. And we do have a really good relationship with Magnix. We were in lockstep during the prototyping activity for our plane. They were even in the control room when we did our first flight.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, I was saying Magnix, but it's Magni X. I have to.
I think both are acceptable. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Great. What about the batteries? What can you tell me about batteries?
Our prototype aircraft was built out using lithium-ion 21700 form factor cells. What's really important, though, it's not the actual cell. It's not even the chemistry of the cell that's important to the design of the aircraft. Part of what we're bringing here to the market is really the evolution of the, not even just the evolution, it's the creation of aircraft design batteries, right? So we have a series of battery management systems and computers and sensors that actually monitor the performance of our batteries, the key characteristics, things like temperature and voltage, all the way down to the individual cell level. And what put us so far ahead is that we've been focused on making sure that every element of our aircraft was certifiable from the initial design. So our batteries are designed to be certifiable so that they can be qualified and ultimately certified on the aircraft using the same standards that apply to any other airplane. So integrating them in. And so some of that technology evolution is focused on making sure that we can actually evolve the chemistry and the physics or the geometry of our cells inside the aircraft as new technologies come on. It's effectively designing the aircraft to be future-proof for the batteries.
The range now with a full charge is 250 miles with full payload, something like that?
Yes. So for on the battery side, so just to start with that, the aircraft is absolutely designed to be future compatible. So we know that the battery technology is going to evolve. Mm-hmm. The same technology, so again, looking at lithium ion right now, evolves at about 3% per year, pretty reliably. That's what we've seen, and that's in terms of performance, so energy density, and also cost. So that's not a bad evolution. It means that at that evolution, every 5 years, you'd have about 17% more energy. So that's actually quite exciting when you think about the life cycle of an aircraft. But the new technologies that are coming on, I mean, we've had NASA publish their roadmap for the production of a 500 watt hour per kilogram solid state battery. So that's a real technology. And then there's other chemistries like lithium sulfur that are coming on, which have a good mix of volume and energy density. So lots is happening there. In terms of range, we're going to enter into service with an initial range of 250 nautical miles day VFR. And you'll appreciate that we use day VFR because it's the most broadly comparable measurement of range of an aircraft anywhere in the world. So you can understand what 250 nautical miles day VFR is. And it's important for people that really understand what the aircraft is going to do. What's really exciting about that range.
Can you elaborate on that point? Where this measurement? Yeah. I don't think everyone is familiar with that.
Okay, good. Yeah, sorry. Thanks for the interruption. That's a good point.
No problem.
Okay, so we use 250 nautical miles day VFR as our range figure. And the reason why we use day VFR is because it's comparable anywhere around the world. Day VFR is going to be your range and then a 30-minute reserve. With IFR, instrument flight rules, and I should add VFR's visual flight rules, but with instrument flight rules, you have to consider alternates and other factors that will help determine your reserve factor. So it's not the same number depending on where you are flying. So that's why we're using day VFR as our number.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the range could potentially be expanded.
On that note, so range is the number one question I get. How far will it go? And it's really interesting because it makes sense. You wonder, okay, well, what can you do with an aircraft? But looking at how aircraft are actually used, 50% of all air travel around the world is less than 500 nautical miles. So half of every flight anywhere on Earth is less than 500 nautical miles. And depending on where you are, anywhere between 20 and 30% of all of flights are less than 250 nautical miles. So the immediate market, the immediate utilization case for our aircraft, the day it enters into service, is anywhere between 20 and 30% of all flights everywhere on the world. So it's actually a pretty useful market right away in terms of what you can do with the aircraft. And what we've seen is that as we've engaged with customers to look at how we do a route analysis, look at how they're going to use the aircraft, we've actually had it happen that a customer that approached us to buy a certain number of airplanes has actually increased their order by 50% after they saw how applicable the aircraft is to the routes that they had identified. So it's very, very exciting. I mean, you look at a Dash 8 with its 1,200 nautical mile range. The vast majority of flights that aircraft flies are less than an hour, right? So you're using 20-25% of that range every day. So it's not about the upper range; it's about what range you're actually going to use.
And I guess in North America, it's way more common for people to fly commuter aircraft, light aircraft as well. I think that's my impression. I haven't looked at the numbers, but there
Yeah.
seems to be more of a culture of traveling by air.
What's exciting about this and having the opportunity to talk to you about what we're doing is why are we doing it, right? So why build the electric aircraft? What's it for? What is it? How do you use it? Who's going to use it? And again, looking at the market and the available, the way that people currently fly. To your point about North America, yeah, North America is the largest single general aviation market in the world. So I think about 60% of the market, but the rest of the world is still 40% of the market, and there's still a lot of utilization of smaller aircraft around the world. So in Northern Europe, you have small aircraft flying through Norway and Sweden. The Channel Islands, there's aircraft this size that fly all day, every day.
Yeah.
And then, similarly around, the south of France and other applications, there's actually a lot of usage for these types of aircraft as it stands. But, we're working on really reinvigorating regional air mobility. In the United States, there are 5,000 airports. 5,000 airports. They're all across the U.S. In fact, 60% of the population of the United States lives within 10 miles of an airport, and 95% of the population lives within 25 miles of an airport. But that's not the way that we fly, because since the airline market was deregulated, we used to have, I can't even count how many regional airlines across the U.S., but they've all been merged or bought or conglomerated, and we've gone from a point-to-point air travel market to a hub and spoke air travel market. From effectively, it's like being on a bus. What we're doing is we're bringing back in the taxi, that point-to-point air taxi market. And so those airports, of those 5,000 airports, only 500 of them are used regularly by commercial air travel.
Mm-hmm.
And 2,000 of those airports have actually been designated by the FAA as being underutilized. So there's a large existing infrastructure of airports in the United States, and it's actually a very similar story in Europe, with airports all over the place that nobody ever uses.
Yeah.
And so what we're doing, and going back to why Alice? Like, what are we doing with this aircraft? We have found the sweet spot for electric aviation. So again, looking at the stats, it's a 9-passenger airplane. It has a cruising speed of about 160 nautical miles per hour, and it's going to be operated on routes of 250 nautical miles or less at entry into service. So it means that you're going to get into Alice and fly for about 1 hour, and pretty much anywhere you are at any kind of not even at a population center, but pretty much anywhere you are across the United States and across Europe, you'd be able to get to an airport in less than 30 minutes and then fly to another airport. Maybe it's across a mountain range, or maybe it's across the water, or some other obstacle that you want to get around, and do that route, typically in less than an hour of flying. And that's the market that we're bringing. And then when you look at how we're doing it, this is really what differentiates us from some of the other applications of electric technology on aircraft that you're seeing. Is we're an airplane. So we're electric conventional takeoff and landing. We're an eCTOL. And that means that we're designing an airplane specifically to be certified using existing standards for certifying an airplane that can be flown by pilots with existing pilots licenses, that get qualified using the existing training system, that fly out of existing airports in existing airspace. We've been absolutely focused on making sure that we understand the regulatory environment for how you're going to certify and then use this aircraft. And also, because it's a 9-passenger airplane, you can fly a single pilot. So when you look at our market, we talk about it in terms of the 3 C's, in terms of carbon, cost, and convenience. It's a zero-emission aircraft. There's no tailpipe. Nothing comes out of the airplane when it flies. The cost of electricity, the electric motors, the power plant for the aircraft are much cheaper to operate, much cheaper to maintain than a turbine aircraft. And of course, because we're doing all of this in a clean and quiet way, it's going to allow us to access the existing airport infrastructure, making it much more convenient for you and I to fly, to go see people, to have our packages delivered to us.
Mm-hmm. How much is going to cost?
The aircraft, it's going to be similarly priced to other aircraft in its size category.
And that's more or less what price bracket?
So what I will tell you this is that we've sold over 300 aircraft,
mm-hmm.
and I'm very comfortable saying that we have an order order book that's worth more than $3 billion.
Okay. 3 billion.
Yeah.
Okay. And those are firm orders, 300.
Where these are clear, these are LOIs, so they're letters of intent to buy these aircraft. We will firm these orders as we get through that next phase of our development, and we're actually making sure that we're involving these customers who've been so forward and expressing their interest in the aircraft to actually work with us in the development of the airplane.
For pilots to be qualified to fly the Alice, are you going to have to go through some specific training, I guess, but how different is it from a conventional plane? And do you anticipate this being, well, obviously you don't anticipate this being an obstacle, but how difficult is it going to be to have a pipeline of pilots qualified to fly this type?
So any aircraft in this category requires a type rating. So it's our process for getting pilots qualified to fly our aircraft is exactly the same as for any other airplane of this size. Are
you going to have some school, some training center for people to get qualified? Or
we are absolutely going to have a world-class training center for our pilots. In fact, we're looking at partnering with some of the major training providers right now. But it's not just for pilots. It's also mechanics. It's the team of people that we're going to have working in our factories, our field service team, and also things like ramp operators and even emergency services. Because it's new technology, it has some different characteristics than what we're used to dealing with. We want to make sure that the entire ecosystem from the airport to the airplane understands how to work with our product.
So what would be then the next milestones that we should be looking for in the near future?
Well, I mean, the most exciting one's going to be the aircraft getting delivered to our first customer in 2027. But before that, you're going to see, of course, more sales, which will be very welcome. And then you're going to see the aircraft's design firm up, which it'll be a straight derivative of the aircraft that we have right now. And then, of course, we'll get through and we'll start those test flights in about late 2025.
Mm-hmm. So that the flight test campaign, I guess, because as you said, now you had this flight and you're still analyzing the data, so it's still not something that is going to happen regularly. But do you have a time frame for these flights to start, these testing flights to start on a regular basis?
Yeah, we aim to have our certification articles going through test flying late 2025. Uh-huh. And that's going to continue on for about 2 years. We're going to have to do a couple thousand hours of flights. So we're going to have 3 aircraft in our test program going through and satisfying those requirements.
Excellent. Well, in the meantime, people that wish to learn more about the Alice and about aviation, what resources would you recommend? I guess you guys have social media channels, the website as well. Where should they go?
Absolutely. So we keep our website up to date with the latest information on our product and also what we're doing. You can follow me and Eviation on Twitter and on LinkedIn. Of course, we're very proud to participate in podcasts like yours today and make sure that we keep our presence out in the market. So just watch and maybe you'll see us in person at some point.
Hopefully, yeah. So just a reminder for the audience, it's aviation.com. And I'm going to be posting, of course, the show notes with links and images and all the other resources so that they can better understand and get a grasp of many of these things that we were talking about here. So, yeah, thank you very much, Gregory, for your time today, and wishing you all the best with all these milestones that lie ahead. And hopefully we'll see this very beautiful airplane passing overhead, wherever we are in the world, from 2027.
Thank you very much. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you. Before you go, and if you like this podcast, a quick reminder that it would be absolutely great if you could please give it a rating on Apple, Spotify, or whichever platform you're using, or recommend it to a friend or whomever might be interested. Thank you very much, and see you soon.